Welcome to The Gut Check, Nutrition and Gut Health for Active People, a podcast where we are talking functional nutrition for functional fitness and a functional you. Remember, if your gut is not functioning optimally, you are not functioning optimally. I am your host, registered dietitian and nutritionist, and OCR fan, Kate Klein. You can connect with me on Facebook at The Dublin Dietitian, or go to my website for additional resources, services, and the video recorded versions of these episodes at www.dublindietitian.com. That's DUBLINDIETITIAN. As a standard disclaimer, the information provided here is for educational purposes only. While I strive to provide accurate and helpful information to my listeners and viewers, I cannot take into account individualized circumstances. This is not a substitute for personalized nutrition, health, and medical advice from a health professional. If you are ready to get your personalized plan, you can go to dublindietitian.com and schedule a complimentary strategy session to get a game plan in place for you to hit your health and fitness goals. So let's get to it. Welcome back for another Gut Check episode. This is Kate, your Dublin dietitian. However, I'm not going to be just a Dublin dietitian for much longer. A quick note, name change. So Dublin dietitian, it's grown over the past 2 years. I'm no longer working just within the Dublin, Ohio region. I've got clients kind of all over the country, and every now and then I even grab some international clients. And also my actual focus of work has narrowed. So while I started with things just like mystery illness and weight loss, I've found a lot of research and time for clients has gone into specifically gut health, joint health and arthritis, and sports nutrition. And it is this combination that I just adore, really just helping runners and active people and recreational athletes, or people who want to be that, get the health that they need so they can get back to those activities, sports, hiking, and running that they love. So in August, I am shifting my website a little bit to highlight that work more directly. So while currently dublindietitian.com is still active for the next few weeks, you can now also access the site and all the information by going to just nutritionandguthealth.com. Straightforward and simple. I also mentioned in the previous episode that there's some new offerings and resources as well, such as customizable menu plans, the VIP small group accountability coaching. I've got a free master's course on gut health. It won't be free for long, so get in while that's still sort of in the beta testing. Very in-depth information about what's going on in your GI system, how it relates to SIBO, IBS, heartburn, energy, autoimmune, what athletes specifically need to be aware of. And I consider you an athlete if you pretty much move at all, because there are things that change in your body chemically, even with just 20 minutes of jogging. So all of that can now be found at nutritionandguthealth.com/runners shouldn't trot. So good stuff. A lot of great resources there, a lot of free stuff, as well as that beta test. So that out of the way, back to our regular plan for a podcast episode. And in today's episode, it's really exciting to see the tides are finally turning. I've been in the functional medicine and functional nutrition realm, focusing on gut health and root causes for over a decade. And it is really exciting to see that we are getting medical doctors on board finally. It has taken a long time. It has been very conflicting for a long time, where we kind of butt heads, but I am really excited to bring Dr. Thomas Morse to you today and his daughter, Steffany. So Thomas has been a practicing MD since the 80s and worked in emergency medicine through the 1990s and into early 2000s. And he watched this evolution of medical care go from that patient-centric feeling that he liked, and that brought him there, that idea of helping people. And he felt that it was being more guided by government and insurance companies rather than putting the patient first. He also started learning about more functional practices, holistic practices, natural things, how our energy and like our neurotransmitters and rewiring of the brain, how that all plays together. And then he taught himself and worked with his daughter, Steffany Morse, who has a background also in the medical world as an occupational therapist. So she joins in the conversation as well, sharing her experiences, and they have come together and now work in their own health practice, innovative wellness. So they both realized that there was this missing gap in healthcare, and they learned new ways to help people. So they wanted to create this bridge between conventional and allopathic medicine and this more functional, holistic lifestyle medicine. So a large focus of this talk is going to get into some of that, the energies, the neurotransmitters, the neurology of past trauma and mindset and how it relates to health and recovery, whether it's drug addictions to Crohn's disease. So it's a new angle on health that I personally have not gotten deep into, but I've heard a lot of doctors, functional practitioners speaking more and more about it. So I was really glad to have Dr. Morse come on and be willing and able to dive into the science behind all of it, because that is speaking my language. So they have done training through thought-field therapy developed by Robert Callahan, EFT tapping, bioenergetic synchronization technique, and more. And because of all their studies and their training and this whole collaboration that they've gone through, they blend this into their own healing practice and again, opened innovative wellness. So it's really cool to see the different sides of this coming together: nutrition, supplement, lifestyle, lab work, and what they do to help people who are really struggling and suffering. So listen in to hear about their methods and their research and how to get a free consultation with them, even if you don't live in the area. Stay tuned. I hope you enjoy. Well, welcome back, Team Gut Check. Today I have Thomas Morse and his daughter Steffany Morse with us today, talking about their business. Tom is the founder and medical director of Innovative Wellness here in Worthington, Ohio. He has 35 years of experience in clinical medicine and in the medical field in general, and branched into his own business, Innovative Wellness, with Steffany. Now, Steffany's background is as an occupational therapist, but they both have done some really specialized trainings and certifications in their journey in order to open up their innovative wellness practice and help people in a different way. So Innovative Wellness is a medical facility that offers a really unique approach to improving your health and wellness through the integration of holistic and traditional medicine, with the goal of improving your overall quality of life. So it's really great to have both of you here. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Kate.
Now, I would love it if you could expand on that, because there's so much to talk about. So can you give us more background on your trainings and your experiences and kind of where did you come from and how did that lead to where you guys are now?
I'll go first, and I think I'll dovetail into Steph very nicely. But tell by my hair, I've been practicing medicine for a while. I'm not a young individual. Got my medical license back in the late 80s from medical school here in Ohio State. I eventually went through emergency medicine residency at the University of Chicago in the early 90s. Been practicing emergency medicine from then up until the year 2000, mostly here in Central Ohio at Riverside Methodist Hospital. Had a great experience. Emergency medicine, I really enjoyed quite a bit. I always wanted to help people, and I thought emergency medicine was a field where I got to see people at time of crisis, time of need. And what I liked was the immediate return on my investment in time and effort to see the response and improvement. That was really rewarding to me. However, what I saw in my career in medicine was how medicine in my world, these are all my opinions, so take them for what they're worth, how medicine changed. And in my opinion, it went away from being patient-centric to being more at the whim of, again, my opinion, government, insurance companies, and leave it there.
Actually kind of an evolution that you saw.
I saw that it became more about controlled medicine, following certain guidelines, rather than taking a patient as individual and doing what's best for them at the time. That, again, that's just my opinion. But also then on the back, so my experience in medicine changed some, where I found it a little bit less rewarding. Also, emergency medicine became the safety net for healthcare. The way it evolved, primary care physicians became more gatekeepers and taking care of the day-to-day maintenance and health checks rather than acute care per se. So we became the fallback for individuals who needed care in a more timely fashion for their needs. Not always an emergent fashion, but a more urgent fashion. So fewer people were coming, the volumes got bigger, but the percentage of clients really need to be there probably was less than percentage, if that makes sense. So it became kind of an overwhelming type process. But also in my path in life, I also became more focused on personal growth. And in that search, I became exposed to some things that were out of the mainstream for medicine. You know, I was taught that medicine, allopathic medicine, was the be all and end all for healthcare. And I was one of the first people to stand up and say everything else was quackery because it wasn't evidence-based, it wasn't studied, you know, and that was what I was trained. That's truly what I believed. And then I became more aware of other things going on, had to start at least listening to what people were saying because they were saying they were getting results. So then I got the chance to witness them, some of these healthcare, some of these alternative techniques, and I saw the benefits in other individuals. And then I went and experienced it myself. And once I experienced it myself, you know, that was the biggest confirming evidence that, you know, this stuff works. Then it became how does this work? Why does it work? And how can I integrate this in something I really enjoy doing?
See, so you almost live that mantra, see one, live one, teach one.
Yeah, and it took a while before I taught one.
You saw it, you experienced it, and now you do it.
Yeah. And actually I had to go back and retrain myself. I had to retrain my brain. I had to read information that was hard, wasn't congruent with what I'd been taught and how I grew up. And so it was overwhelming and confusing, and it took a long time to sort out. And then I got exposed to other groups that were doing certain types of alternative healthcare, energy medicine, vibrational medicine. And that's what I aligned with the most. And that's what I started to learn about in different avenues and got to where I am today. Where I drug my daughter into this, I'll let this listen to her rather than take up all the time, is that I was going through this training and learning these things. She was going to college for occupational therapy. And I'd go down and visit her. So as part of getting dinner and so forth, things like that, she had to be my non-voluntary volunteer in the process. So she was forced somewhat to go through the experiences as I was doing this process. Reluctantly at first, she'll share, then eventually she got some benefit. That's what led her on her path. So I'll turn it over to her at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'll kind of dovetail into that. So I was in school, I was studying for occupational therapy, and during my undergrad portion of schooling, I was highly stressed. I mean, barely functioning because my anxiety was so bad. I was so overwhelmed with getting perfect grades and making sure I stayed in the program that I worked really hard to get into. Really wasn't changing much else in my life. The only thing that was changing was he was performing these treatments, which is like more the vibrational energy healing techniques. I was very resistant, almost to the point of being very mean to my father when he'd want to do the treatments on me. But over time, and you know, for me, it actually took quite a while, like as it did for him, to really see the benefit of these treatments. But over time, I realized I could tell I was handling stressful situations better. My anxiety in school was much improved. I went from doing pretty well in school, but working really hard, highly anxious, to then getting really in grad school. I got a 4.0, half the anxiety. I was enjoying myself. I was happier. I was more enjoyable to be around. And I truly feel like it was all because of the treatments that I received over the years. There was not anything else I had changed in my life. So with that, I would start asking him for treatments. He went from forcing to then me begging him, can I have a treatment? Can I have a treatment? And after a while, once I was out of school, I thought, I want to learn this too. I like to help people. That's what I aim to do in my life. So I got to learn from him, and then I went to some other courses as well. So we got to learn alongside of each other, which was really fun.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So it kind of sounds like it started out as sort of just dabbling a little skeptically into it, and you got to be the guinea pig, and then seeing the benefits and the results of some of these non-traditional or non-conventional processes just kind of helped lead you in this direction.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And the funny thing is obviously he's my father, so known him my whole life, but he was always the emergency medicine doc. That's what he was to me. So seeing him at the beginning of me being exposed to it all, I was like thinking my dad's going through some midlife crisis. I'm like, what is happening to him? I'm gonna roll with it, but something's going on. And over time, it pulled me in, and I'll never look back because it has changed my life and others around us. So.
And it is really interesting to see, because I know even just within dietetics, there's definitely a conventional versus functional kind of conflict where, yeah, same thing, like things I was taught in school, they very much were like, oh, that's going to be on quackwatch.com. We don't care about, complementary or alternative medicine. There's no benefit to yoga, even though there was research, and I'm sure you're familiar with Dr. Dean Ornish, and like he was doing the studies, but it just took so long and still to see the benefit to yoga, mindfulness, different eating forms, different things. So what sort of trainings have you pulled together? Because I think you mentioned a couple different certifications and trainings that you do, and there's a bunch of different therapies you do, but what kind of coalesced to create innovative wellness?
Yeah. What coalesced, and that's a great question. Innovative wellness, and I was going through this different path that's involved in an organization kind of based on individual growth and personal growth and expansion. And so it's being exposed to different things. And I wanted to find a way to, being allopathically trained, and I'm not knocking allopathic medicine, there's a need for it in society. I mean, I really felt the career I had was very valuable, and the docs I work with are great in different specialties, but it's not the be all and end all. And neither is non-allopathic medicine. Right. There's a place for all that too. So it's the bridge, and it seems like forever the two shall speak and meet. And so my goal has really been to try and create a bridge. Now, what we created is a non-traditional bridge, but I really believe it is a bridge between allopathic care and more holistic care. And that's kind of where innovative wellness was born, to be honest with you.
And I can dovetail into that too. We have different portions of our company, but the more vibrational energy healing techniques, those came from really a variety of different people that we've learned from, and he's learned from, that it's all the same end goal. It's non-forceful techniques that just really clear your energy, the subconscious thoughts that are in your mind that are still affecting you every single day, whether you're aware of it or not. So we've really just kind of made our own technique based off of all the things we've learned from every course that we've been to. Some things he's been to separately, and some of the stuff we've done together. So.
Yeah. Specifically, thought field therapy, which was developed by Roger Callahan, who was a psychologist. I've been certified under he passed away and his wife continued on the trainings. Steph then dovetailed into EFT, which was a gentleman who followed under Roger Callahan and started a more simplified managed treatment program involving tapping techniques. Bioenergetic synchronization technique, known as BEST, developed over a course of 35 plus years by a chiropractor by name of Dr. M.T. Moore II. We also thought the emergence process we've recently been exposed to in the last 3 years out of a gentleman out of Arizona. Steph, his name is Roland Phillips.
Roland.
Yeah. and actually where I really those are all ways to integrate using vibrational and healing technology, energetic vibrational healing technologies. Really what helped bring it together me, I started studying under Grandmaster John Tsai, TSAI, who since passed away, Maywad Qigong in Chicago a few years ago. And that really was like the tipping point into understanding how this all works. That makes sense. And not something I can explain, but something I actually started to feel and to notice in myself that kind of coalesced it all together, how this can really function and work to others.
And I got to step in and, my profession, which is occupational therapy, not many people know what that is and what that entails. Can be the struggle with what I do. But with my background, occupational therapy, the real meaning behind it is to look at the mind, body, and spirit. That's actually how it starts. And we address, the physical body, we actually address spirituality, and we address your mental health. So I feel very lucky because my background and from my studies, it actually did have a holistic approach to it. It did encourage the full mind, body, spirit connection. The problem is once you get out in the field, again, kind of what we discussed earlier, just based on the insurance model and billing, a lot of that stuff goes away and it gets more focused on just the physical concern. So really, I'm thankful for my training and the profession of occupational therapy because it has taught me a lot about the mind-body connection even before I did all these additional studies. So that's really my goal here at Innovative Wellness, is to bring back the root of what occupational therapy is supposed to be.
Okay. So is there mostly a big focus then on kind of the various energy healings and the energy modalities? or what other sorts of services do you integrate in there?
So,
Good stuff.
well, are you talking about for occupational therapy specific?
For your business, for innovative
Okay.
wellness. Yeah.
You go ahead, Dan.
Yeah. So getting back to the bridge. So it is actually a full program. And so we talk a lot about the energetic stuff. That's the part people understand the least, and it's hard to explain. So we spend a lot of time with that. So
I was going to say, I want to circle back to that and see how you can explain that. But go ahead.
So,
what else
yeah,
can
exactly.
you here first?
So again, through being exposed to other things, and I was at a conference where a gentleman came up and spoke about NAD and its use in substance use disorders patients specifically. This dating as far back as the 80s.
And can you define that for our listeners?
Well, NAD is actually, it's NAD plus if you look it up, but it's nicotinamide, adenine, dinucleotide, but of NAD plus. But it's actually a coenzyme that your body produces actually through niacin primarily, but it's involved in hundreds of chemical reactions within the body, and it's just required for you to function adequately. And what happens over time with age and stress and traumas and anxiety, depression, and all type of illnesses, chronic disease, those NAD levels seem to be insufficient for what the needs are to maintain normal function. And so where I got exposed to it initially was someone talking about it treats substance use disorders, because those clients would have issues with persistent cravings even after they got detox, and it seemed to alleviate their cravings. That was success in those clients. So what I've come to find is the more you research it, the more experience it is, it's valuable for a vast array of disorders throughout the medical community. And our clients have benefited from, inflammatory bowel disorders, to mood disorders, to sleep disorders, to chronic pain, and having fantastic results. And that's the reason is that's the medical side of it. It's an infusion of a product to bring these levels up into your system to help your body regenerate, neurologically regenerate, cellular regenerate, rejuvenate. But you combine that with the rest of the program. We're not just getting infusion and going home. You're tackling these subconscious issues and chronic issues that are causing these to present and persist that they're not even aware of. And we even have behavioral health therapists too. So we actually use all in occupational therapy. So it's actually a multi-pronged approach, not just one thing, it's everything. If that makes sense. So it's actually a full program.
Okay. Yeah. And I know as looking on your website a little bit and sort of the way you described it. So it said like your passion was to create a health and wellness facility with the objective of integrating a program that combines neuro rejuvenation with brain optimization and neurosensory feedback, stress reduction techniques, along with the functional life skills therapy to restore, restructure, rejuvenate, rebalance. So there's a lot in there. Can you elaborate on kind of what does that all mean? What is combining?
Which one do you want to tackle first?
Brain optimization.
Okay, it's a good time to bring in the brain mapping we do, the quantitative EEG. Okay, people figure what an EKG is. It's a recording of the electrical activity of the heart. So it kind of maps the heart, the electrical activity of the heart. We have a quantitative EEG, which is electroencephalogram, and it's the same. It looks like a space cap on the head with soft probes on it, leads, and it measures the brain activity electromagnetically throughout the entire brain itself. And we send it to a neuroscientist, and she reads that. And if you look at it, it actually shows the way the brain is wired, whether correctly or incorrectly based on norms, and how that's affecting their life. Different areas of the brain that aren't firing correctly or overfiring, and how it's affecting your sleep patterns, PTSD, prone to addiction tendencies, depression, anxiety, all those kinds of things. And so a way to describe that is, it shows how your brain over time, because of how you lived your life and the way you dealt with these things consciously or subconsciously, the brain has kind of rewired itself. Switches, we know about epigenetics now, right? Used to be, we thought we were born one way and that's where you're going to be, and that's how you're done with it. They now have the thing called neuroplasticity. The brain can actually rewire itself and function differently over time based on certain factors. So you think about wires and switches, and you're turning off switches to certain areas and rewiring the way things process. Well, we get ourselves out of whack. Okay, and we can show that by the quantitative EEG.
I'm going to step in real quick. We actually, in our clinic, we perform the quantitative EEG, before the client even starts our program. And then once they've gone through usually 10 to 12 rounds of the whole program, then we repeat it. And our results have been amazing. What he's talking about with the rewiring, we're seeing that our clients, they come in with, maybe they have sleep issues and they're prone to addiction and they have anxiety, you know, you name it, whatever they're dealing with. And when we remap their brain after 10 to 12 sessions, it's amazing to see how much things have changed and how much it's improved. Our neuroscientist gives us pictures of the brain with like colors to help normal people figure it out. Yeah. So I think the colors are what, like blue, red, and green, I think it is.
Right.
And gray. And so it's blue, gray, and red. Yeah. So red shows how overactive parts of the brain, and then the blue shows underactive parts. So you'll see somebody's brain. We have a client right now we're doing a case study on. Their brain's basically all red. And that was at the beginning of the treatment. Once they went through the program, that you can see comparatively that their brain now is more gray, which is great. That's what we want.
Red is overactive?
Red is overactive. Yeah. Blue is underactive.
Symptoms does that lead to, or how does that manifest?
So in the brain mapping report, it gets very specific. The pictures just kind of give a general overview of different parts of the brain, but the brain mapping report shows, it breaks it down like where a client they may struggle with anxiety. They may have had trauma, and the neuroscientist can tell if the trauma came from childhood or adulthood. It's that specific. Yes.
Wow.
So that's a science I don't know enough about. It's just obviously very specialized, but it is a very specific, and he can get back into it.
That's right. It's kind of an analogy I use, especially when we bring this back to spirituality and so forth and things outside the physical body. You know, energy is meant to flow gently and smoothly, consistently throughout the body in a certain pattern, correct? And when that's happening, you feel good, life works good, it all kind of comes into play. What happens is you have significant emotional, physical traumas in your life, and major and minor in between. It's like throwing boulders and logs into a river. As the river is nice and open, it flows nice, smoothly and gently throughout, right? You start throwing things in there, start obstruct it, well, the water is going to flow, but it's not going to flow smooth. It's going to bounce around, make alternative paths, things to get where it needs to go, and more turbulent. The same thing happens with the way the electroactivity of the neurologic system works. When the brain starts getting off all haywire, so to speak, it's not functioning the way it's intended. So these chronic issues occur, even though you're not aware of them. And then what happens through these treatments, both the NAD and not just, but the NAD and the neurosensory biofeedback process, we do the functional life skills program, behavioral therapy, part of that. You start removing those boulders and logs, and things start to flow more as intended. And so life changes, if that makes sense. And they tell us subjectively about their life's doing in a better ways. Then we do the quantitative QEEG, which also shows the changes that's consistent with what they're telling us they're experiencing. So it's objective data supporting subjective information. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So I guess maybe I should also kind of jump back to, because you keep mentioning the program and 12 sessions. So also kind of knowing that the bulk of the gut check audience are, active people with GI issues. And I'm sure we could go for hours on all your different clients and success stories and all the different nuances. But talk to us about kind of the innovative wellness program. What are in the sessions? I know it says like you've got the assessment, the blended NAD infusions, brain mapping, and all that. So what would people kind of go through? What's your process and what's the science behind how it works?
I'll go through the process. How about that? And then you can go through the science. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, one of our classes.
Yeah, he's the science one. So I like to lay it out kind of like what a typical day would look like when a client comes in. So if it's your first day in, you always have an assessment with our medical provider, which right now is Dr. Morse. He kind of figures out about, what the program's going to look like for you, which really is in terms of how frequently you'll be coming in and then how many sessions you may need. After that, if you're going to get the rest of the program done, we do your brain mapping. So we do the QEEG with you, and we like to get that before you start any of the rest of the program, just so we can get that baseline. And then if you're coming in for we call it the day of infusion, but that entails much more than just the infusion. So you come in, you'll have your infusion. It usually runs about 3 to 4 hours. And while you're getting your infusion,
this is an actual like IV hookup infusion that you do.
IV, yeah. Intensive NAD, you got it. Yep. With the NAD in it, and there's some vitamins like B12, vitamin C, and B complex. So while they're receiving the infusion, since it takes a few hours, that's when we go into what we call the neurosensory biofeedback. That is more of the energy healing techniques, which we can get, more specific about that as we go.
Okay.
And then in the meantime, since I'm an occupational therapist, I usually work on stress reduction techniques, coping strategies, because your everyday person tends to have issues with how to deal with and manage their own anxiety and stress. And then because we like to consider ourselves a brain optimization program, I work on more cognitive enhancement exercises. There's a program we use that really just helps, again, train the brain with issues with planning, problem solving. We have a lot of people who have memory issues. So it's just, there are fun exercises that people use and can play that help train the brain and help reprogram. And really, we say 10 to 12 days. It doesn't have to be in a row or even in a few weeks. Usually that's spread out over, you'd say what, about 4 to 6 months, Dan? It's usually spread out. And then, people who are struggling with more chronic conditions, they tend to need more treatments, and maybe even more frequently they need the treatments. They can't have them quite spaced apart quite as far yet because their chronic condition didn't grow overnight. So it's not going to go away overnight. Somebody who may be coming in with maybe they're just feeling a little bit more brain foggy because of age. Their age is it's causing some fatigue and brain fog. They may not need quite as much rounds of infusion as your more chronic conditions. But I'll let you take over. And
yeah, let's use an example of some of the gastrointestinal disorders to fit your audience. One of our clients, he's got Crohn's disease. He's had it for 30 years. So quite familiar with, and has been on multiple medications, and it's gone. Anybody that's got disorders, when they're immunosuppressive is what they are generally, the chronic things, and been frequent hospitalizations and complications, and visits to the emergency room for hydration issues, exacerbations, that kind of thing. Since this person's been in our program, there's at least 2 occasions I know we kept him out of the hospital because we caught him at a time before he was ready to just treat a tip and be in the emergency department. I kind of pretty good idea who would require to be in the hospital, and at least the emergency room who wouldn't. We were able to keep him from getting that tipping point. The point now where his disease is under control. And with that, with anybody with chronic diseases, they generally are also suffering from a little bit of anxiety, depression, malaise, fatigue. These diseases just wear you out.
They may be more irritable as well, just because they don't feel good all the time.
So family members are affected by that too. So what's happened, he's been through the entire program, is that he's been out of the hospital. His disease is now under control. His brain fog's improving. He admits that. He's reading books he never read books before. His family members say he's much easier to get along with, and he's sleeping better. So, it's a ripple effect. So that's an example with someone with a bowel disorder that's benefited from a program, really from an issue of chronic disease and chronic management we're augmenting his care. We didn't take over his care. We're augmenting his care. In the process, we're giving him a better quality of life, not just for him, but those he works with and lives with.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out the results that even the family members are noting. For example, with this client, like their loved one, their spouse can't wait till he goes back to our clinic because when he leaves, he's a much better person and goes home a better person. So sometimes, not just him specifically, but when our clients start out, they may not notice immediate changes because, everybody wants to heal overnight. But they may not notice anything, but their loved one or their family member, whoever, they start to notice things. Right. And then that's when they're starting to notice a change. And to us, that's a huge win. If your loved one can see a difference, that means we're not just changing that client's life, we're changing everybody in that client's life, which is amazing.
Yeah. And that's, I know, like with self-care of any sort, whether that's anything from like just a small little mini thing that you do to actually investing in like something for your health. It's something I tell people a lot, especially I feel like for me, what I see a lot is, especially with moms, they've got a lot of mom guilt. They don't want to work on themselves, but I'm like, you bring a better version of you to your family. And that's something that, I hear a lot all the time too, is I'm more present with my family. I'm more patient. I have more energy to play with my kids. And it's just amazing, that ripple effect too. Cause it affects every facet, the brain fog, the energy, the sleep, the pain, which then affects mood. So that is really cool. Do you have some other types of illnesses or conditions that you tend to work with a lot?
Really, we've really run the whole gamut. It's been, as far as chronic diseases, it's been the Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis. I reflex sympathetic dystrophy from chronic pain issues. Sleep disorders. A gentleman who was having he'd wake up with night terrors and throughout the night. He's an adult now. The point, he's affecting. He was afraid about certain relationships. He's afraid, what happens if I wake up in the middle of the night and have one of these episodes. Yeah. And after the first day, he started sleeping through the night, and he hadn't done that since he could remember.
Wow.
I mean, those kinds of responses.
You're talking about moms, and we have a client who's very open about their story as well, but they struggle with chronic pain, rheumatoid arthritis, and their mother. And they also have some brain fog. They kind of get a little delayed when they are having a conversation with people. And it used to really affect her relationship with other moms. And she felt like she couldn't form friendships with other mothers. So she kind of felt isolated as a newer mom. When she started coming to our clinic, her pain has completely gone away, right, Dan?
It's been longer sessions, but she comes back before it starts to act back up.
And she's noticed that her cognition has improved, and her how she's presented as a mother has completely changed. Like, she's so much more present in her kid's life, like you were just talking about. She's able to form friendships with these other mothers, and she's less isolated because of it all, which is, as a young mother, any mother, but as any person, but that's important.
She's become the mom that she always felt she wanted to be, but couldn't. We also have some interaction with their parents, and they're seeing the child that they saw grow up become more of the daughter they always hoped to have, but they, because of disease, they didn't. So it's that ripple effect.
That's rewarding.
Oh, very. That's what keeps us motivated.
That's really cool. That's what's really cool about it. It's very rewarding.
So in each of these sessions, you've got the infusions going on, and it just sounds like that's, I don't want to say like a magic bullet, because obviously, like you're saying, this is augmenting normal care and you're doing a lot of other things, but that's just something like across the board you think a lot of people are just deficient in, and we just aren't.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's why I call this a program. That's an integral part of the program, but it's not the magic bullet. It's an important piece of it, but it's so much more than that. And I'm glad it's a good segue. The more the holistic, the neurosensory biofeedback, we label it to give it a term that you can describe in the medical world. Those are the issues that we deal with. The people, you go to see a therapist, you talk about a lot of things. They're very valuable. But you talk about things you're aware of. You can't talk about something you're not aware of. And so much that affects us physically that we're unaware of is running in our subconscious mind. I compare it to, we have a car. The car is supposed to be running at certain speeds and the gas on the pedal at certain levels when you're driving the car. When it's parked in your driveway in the garage, it shouldn't be on that low running. And certainly the foot shouldn't be on the gas. You have these events that happen throughout your life. Some of them are very obvious, they're major, some of them aren't so major, they still affect you. What happens is they're affecting your body 24/7 and realize it or not. And so your foot's on the gas in your body, and the gas pedal being pushed down in situations where you should be sitting at the table having dinner with your family. You don't realize your body's still being affected by the divorce you had 10 years ago, or the child you lost, or accumulation. A lot of things happen in your life, and it's affecting your body physically. You don't even realize it. Over time, it leads to fatigue. It leads to diseases like hypertension, diabetes, sleep disorders, obviously, all these kind of things. And you don't know how to deal with them because you're not even aware how they're affecting you in the subconscious level. So in this really what I call the secret sauce of what we do, we help remove those boulders, those logs out of that river. And as we remove those rivers and logs of obstructions out there, things start to flow as they're intended. The foot comes off the gas. They're sitting in park where they're supposed to be in park. And they start to get return to sleep. They get more energy. They're just in better mood. It's just magnificent what happens over time. That's the secret sauce. That makes sense in my world when I see it.
Okay. So what are the services to remove the logs, remove the rocks, pull those out?
It's hard to describe it. Basically, It's like Steph, I'll let you describe it. Like.
Okay. So really it just entails light, gentle touching of basically like 6 points around your head. And so you're laying on a table. If you're the client, you're laying on the table. And if it's one of us performing this technique, we may ask you to think about a recurring thought. Maybe it's something that you think about all the time, because everybody wants to address, what's on their immediate mind first. So we try to start off with that so you can get it out of your head. When you have that thought, your body actually, it physically responds to that event that you're thinking about. Your body tightens up, even if you're in a position where your body should be really loose. You shouldn't have, your feet should turn in, your arms should be nice and strong. You should have no problems. So their body's in a defense mode. So we have these certain, it's really, again, it's hard to describe. You
Can you give a couple examples? I think I can think of some, but just like work, just like something.
Yeah. Like say I was getting treated. It may be right now the stressors of this company. This company is on my mind. So I want to focus on work. So the one treating me, will identify there's certain feelings, is what we call them. We have a feelings chart that are in alignment with the way I'm feeling about work right now. And those help clear different neural pathways in your brain that may be causing these blockages. So as the client, I'm laying on the table, I'm thinking about work and I'm thinking about these feelings. He's performing these light touches around my head. And there's certain breathing patterns, like hold your breath in, do nice, slow, deep breathing, that you have to perform. And then really, it really helps clear itself out. I think the important thing to note is people are like, oh, my memory's gonna go away. You're getting rid of that thought forever. That's not really the point. You're gonna still remember all these things, this event. You're gonna still remember you have to go to work or that you got divorced. The important part is that emotional response your body is having to that thought that is dissipating, that's going away. It's complicated when
how deep do we get into the kind of the physiology of what's happening there?
You might be able to, Dad. You want to explain that a little bit better?
The physiology, really, it's pretty simple. If you're doing a muscle test on somebody, you're showing we call it a reactive thought.
Okay.
Say you think about, okay, a divorce. You had a divorce. Every time you got a divorce, you feel your chest tightens up. You get short of breath.
Shoulders are up here.
Shoulders come up. That's a thought that's causing a reaction in your body.
And you may not even know you're doing that.
Don't even know you're doing that. First thing you get with people, and you go to the lecture, hey, everybody take a deep breath and let your shoulders down. Because most people just sitting there, they don't realize it. They're like this. That's
their shoulders up to their ears and their jaws clenched.
But for example, on that table, we can demonstrate on the outside by you think of something and you changes your physiology. Well, it's changing the way your legs are tightening up, whatever that is. Well, that's what you can demonstrate on the outside, what's happening, to your adrenal gland, your kidneys, your thyroid on the inside. It's a point in time where you're laying on a table, relaxed. You should be this nice, easy breathing. Everything should be nice and relaxed. You shouldn't be tightening up for anything. You shouldn't be racing heart, all that kind of stuff. So that's the way to demonstrate externally what's going on internally. And so, for example, if you got your foot on the gas, like I said, your adrenal, and that means you got some epinephrine kicking on continuously, even at low levels, when it shouldn't be pumping out at all, let alone when you think about it, shoots up a little bit. Well, eventually the adrenal glands wear out, or eventually the pancreas starts to have issues, or, you start having longstanding hypertension, you start having, sleep disorders, you start having mood disorders, chronic fatigue. It's because your body never got a chance to rest and recover the way it's meant to.
It's always in that fight or flight mode.
It's like the car. Things are going to wear out over time. This wears out. So we can go real deep in the particular treatments. As Steph said, the first thing you'll often do is have what's biggest on their mind they're consciously aware of. Mm-hmm. We have methods which we go into things they're not thinking of, but it might go back to their childhood. Mm-hmm. It go back to things they don't even remember themselves, but you bring them up subconsciously. The body knows that because it gives you the same reaction as it does when you think about something that was upsetting you this morning. And if it's there in the subconscious, and what happens once you go through the treatment, once you finish the way you've cleared it for the moment, is that they've now returned to where they should be, nice and relaxed and turning in and out and loose. And you're peeling layers, we've all accumulated things over decades, right? And it's peeling off layers of an onion. So you're peeling off some things today, but you'll need other things peeled off tomorrow, next week, or next month when you come back. But over time, as you're peeling things off, you're becoming more of the you were intended to be all along. If that makes sense.
And oftentimes when our clients sit up from the table, because you're usually laying on your back, unless you have some kind of physical disability that doesn't allow that. But usually people get maybe a little lightheaded, or they start walking a little funny when they get off the table. And that really is showing us their brain is actually rewiring.
Yeah. From a physiology perspective, over time, I've had clients who've been able to eliminate some of the medications or decrease dosages of them. Mm-hmm. I have a particular client who has a chronic arthritic disorder, and when they follow inflammatory marker that since they were a teenager hadn't been normal until they started coming up about 3 months. They had their lab work, hadn't been normal in years. So those are
data points.
Another person, the liver enzymes normalized, right? So there's things like that. So you're talking about physiology behind what we're saying. Mm-hmm. those are things that really start to justify and validate what we're actually doing. And then they're telling us subjectively how they're getting better. But this is the data you're talking about.
And some of those results are coming, most of those results are coming without just the infusion. The infusion's great. There really is. There's definitely benefits. But we have had amazing results if they solely get just even the table treatment. That's what we call it, the table treatment, which is neuro
treatment.
biofeedback.
So they can, you sometimes do either or.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes between infusions, we have clients come back just for like a table session between infusion sessions, just because that is really where the long-term benefit is coming in play. People are definitely going to notice a short-term benefit from receiving these infusions with NAD, but to carry that over through the rest, hopefully, of their life, that's where the tables treatments are important.
Okay, and that's you call that EFT?
Actually, that is what we call the neurosensory and biofeedback.
Okay.
EFT is a tapping technique. That's the emotional freedom technique. That's a portion of what we're trained on that we can utilize in those sessions.
What we do is really a very deep dive based on vibrational and energetic healing modalities. If that makes sense. So
Cool.
it's and here's a good example. I had a gentleman last week who he was coming in between the infusion. An infusion day includes the infusion, the table treatment, the functional skills. That's all. That's infusion day. It's actually a full program day.
Okay.
In between, if they'll come in for just I'm not saying just because it only takes about a half hour of your time. For the table treatment, I had a gentleman come in last week. His anxiety level out of 10 was an 8 out of 10. He had things going on that past week. He was really uptight, wasn't sleeping, blah, blah, blah. Half hour later, he left. It's a 2.
And that was
He
just
didn't
for the
NAD
table.
that day. He just got the table treatment. And that was his scoring system. I saw his change. I saw his uptight physiology, his flushed face, and I saw his relaxed appearance and how he seemed like a different person. But the scoring system, that was his score, 8 to 2, not mine.
Yeah, it's amazing how powerful our mind is, and I think people underestimate that all the time. What our thoughts do to our bodies physically.
Yeah, and it's the subconscious people that really get you because it's there 24/7, and you're not aware of it.
Yeah. Let's see. Gosh, I think that hits a lot of my questions. So typically, yeah, you get the assessment, and so that's kind of the bulk of the practices. Then there's either infusions and or table time, or what would you call it, table treatment?
Yeah, our program. Go ahead, Steph.
Well, yeah, it's an all-encompassing. I mean, we have the option if somebody feels like they want to speak to a counselor, because there's benefit in doing that. We have a behavioral health specialist available. It's not like mandatory when you're in our program, but it's available to clients who want to use that. And then the functional life skills, which is more the OT side, that's offered when they're here for their infusion days, which that's again, like the stress reduction techniques, self-care, coping strategies, and some cognitive enhancement training.
Okay, so what are common things you do within that?
Yeah, a lot of it is just teaching people how to manage stress. So we utilize like meditation. We have our clients kind of practice what it's like to engage in guided meditation. That EFT, that tapping technique, we can utilize that as well. Really just working with the client to see what worked for me for stress reduction may not work for everybody. So really just kind of helping them guide and figure out what the technique that you can put into your life, whether that's exercising, going for a walk, doing deep breathing, meditating, you name it. And then the cognitive enhancement program, we actually use an online program called Happy Neuron Pro. And it's basically like brain games. If you've ever seen, there's other apps out there that let you do some brain games, but these are more specific and geared towards like a therapist like myself. So I can kind of control the program for that client and individualize it and work on stuff like memory, your planning skills, problem solving, you name it. So get a nice little variety of stuff while they are here for a few hours.
Yeah. And do they do that while they're getting the infusion?
Yeah, they have the opportunity to do that stuff. We encourage them to engage in those outside the clinic. They have access to those brain training games as well. But when they're here, we try to encourage them to complete them in the clinic. Some people are here though, and they want to get work done. So we let that be a priority because we never want someone to not be able to work and can't come get their infusions because they can't get their work done. So. But yes, we try. And I know you're asking, Kate, you're asking more about like benefits of NAD, and I don't think we answered that part of the question. And I think he could actually be a good person to answer that for us. Because you had mentioned that and we dove right into the table
We
treatment.
got all kinds of cool stuff.
I know.
Well, I do want to mention, you want to go to our website. We have a big frequently asked questions section about NAD specifically. So, because there's all kinds of questions to ask about them. Each one has about a paragraph that kind of summarizes what the benefits are. But basically, every cell in your body needs it to function normally.
Mhm.
And all these kind of things I talked about before cause it to not be able to function properly because you're insufficient levels in total or insufficient to need. And you know, stress can cause it, injury can cause that, nutrition can cause that, you know, all kinds of things. The NAD helps by giving it intravenously. It gets it to a very high level quickly, goes right into the body, even to the blood-brain barrier, the brain, and starts basically bathing the cells in NAD that's taken into the cells and allows it to start to function normally and start to recover from whatever's causing it to function abnormally. It can help inflammation, like chronic inflammatory disorders like Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, those kinds of things, to anxiety, depression. Those are will help stimulate the brain to help produce more normal levels of the dopamine, things like that, to help the brain function more normally, to help affect the mood disorder, to cognitive function, to actually even recovery. COVID recovery is a good example right now. I've had clients who know COVID has its disease process. It can be a few days to a few weeks, right? But you have those who just can't get back to normal from it. And had one client in particular just couldn't go back to work more than half time, and really was having all kinds of problems.
Long haul.
And so that person was in our program for the stuff already. So we knew the client very well and suggested, why don't you give this a shot, see what happens? Well, took him for 3 days. By day 2, actually after day 1, but certainly through day 2, it was back to normal. And again, this had been like 6 to 8 weeks post acute illness. They just couldn't turn that corner to do anything that normally going to do, let alone even go back to work. So it was something like just needed that kick.
Boost. Yeah. And then they went back to working full time and living their normal life.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So it's obviously that's like a very high therapeutic dose. Is this something we can get through other sources on a lower kind of like more maintenance level?
There are different forms. My personal experience, that's been very difficult, especially to get to levels to help recover from things, help treat acute problems. There's a nasal spray form of it. You can get it. There's one place that puts out like lollipops and tablets and things like that. If you look up some of the articles, there's out of the B3 vitamin and niacin, there's one component, we'll just call it NR rather than the third component, that seems to be the precursor to NAD. And so if you can find a supplement that has that particular NR as a supplement or as part of a multi-supplement, and if you go to a general health store, I'm sure, or a specialized health store especially, they probably be able to point that product out to you. You could take that, and that seems to be the best chance to take some orally to help increase your NAD levels. That makes sense.
And Dad, explain why that you feel like the infusion is the best way.
The infusion is the best way because it bypasses the digestive system. There's no breakdown of the component, whether it's the NAD itself or the precursor to help you develop. So you get a consistent buying immediately into the system. It immediately hits. In fact, you can feel some of the side effects we have. You can feel it, so it's getting within seconds. So you know it's getting in there right away. And it's a continuous infusion for a few hours. And it's like I said, you're getting a high level throughout the entire body that's allowing the cells to take it right in and start doing what it needs to do. And you know, I've had some experience with some of the other supplements myself, and I haven't really experienced a benefit from them. If they did, I'd start using them as people to take on the way home. So if I find one that works, I certainly promote that. But from my research, if you're gonna look for one, there's 3 components to niacin. The one that, again, simple initials are NR. That's the one they feel is a precursor that seems the one that stimulates NAD in the body. So in theory, if you can take that high enough levels, it gets into your system, it'll help improve your NAD levels.
And I can speak for myself. I hate needles. I'm a needle phobe, and I would do anything to not have to get an infusion if I could avoid it. But I have tried many different forms, and I don't even get even a fourth of the results I get from an infusion. And again, I don't deal with chronic conditions, but I have seen a huge improvement in my own self. And I think it's more beneficial in the infusion.
Yeah. There's absolutely a difference between like therapeutic infusion doses of various nutrients than you can get through supplements, foods, etc.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. And like you said, getting it right into the body. So I would be curious. So some of the listeners are here in kind of the Dublin, your Worthington area. But if people who are listening are not, are there any certifications that you trust? Is there someone else who does this kind of IV therapy if they wanted to look into it, and a practitioner in their state, something they should be cautious of, be wary of, or to look for?
Well, we're the only one who does a full program like we have at the minute, but the NAD itself, and also we use an insurance model. So we can evaluate their insurance and see what insurance will contribute to their care.
Oh,
there are clinics, cash, pull out your credit card, and you get NAD.
Mm-hmm.
There's many places you can go to get infusions.
Infusions, it's just, that's all you're getting. Mm-hmm. And again, it's all out of pocket, and that's certainly fine. We have private pay programs too. The key to what we're doing, it really is, it's the full program. I know we focus on NAD because it catches a lot of attention. It's got its point, but it's just a part of it.
But it definitely sounds like a collaboration, and
it definitely is collaboration, and we've proven that model since it's been open. It's really, that's what's so rewarding about it, to actually see the results. When Steph was talking about, just real quick, you look back through the substance use disorder model, because I worked in that for a little bit, so I got some of my training. They were taking people and they were giving them like 10 straight days of NAD, and that's all they got. They got fantastic results. They slept better, their cravings were gone. They spent a lot of money, doing great. The problem is, once 2-3 months out, their cravings are going away, are coming back. There's not a plan to pick them up. They haven't dealt with all the issues around it, subconsciously especially, to maintain that. And there's nothing else to deal with the cravings other than Vivitrol, which it does is blocks things. I'm gonna go that path. So what I saw in that model was people are doing great. Really, the first few days, they're already doing great. They're doing 10 straight days of infusions for several hours a day. My model was, let's take a program, not just for substance use, and Steph's a big component of this works for so many things, Dad. And the idea is you give them usually 2 or 3 days on the front end, they get that benefit right away. And like everything else, you didn't get this way overnight. And so they expect a miracle overnight. You're gonna get some benefits hopefully in a short period of time, but they are necessarily not gonna be permanent. Mm-hmm. And so our program spaces them out, because you start to get some relapse, whatever it is you're coming to see us for. We keep bumping you down the road. And in between, you're getting the table treatments, right? You're getting the table treatments, getting a full program. So we're attacking the whole body, mind, body, spirit, over a sustained period of time with increasing intervals in between, because you're getting sustained responses for longer between. And down the road, 6-9 months from now, you're a different person. And that's the difference.
I think it's really important too, especially with people with chronic conditions. I know I said this earlier, but this didn't all form overnight. It may even feel like that for some people, but this didn't. Your chronic conditions didn't just happen overnight. And so we really go into the model of, it's not going to necessarily improve overnight. We hope you have quick results, but we want sustained results. And so we want to improve you over a long period of time that you can sustain, hopefully forever. So that's really what our goal is, to help improve your life for the long term, not just temporarily.
Yeah.
We're the client who really wants to get better, and we're there to walk with you through the process. Mm-hmm. Not just take it one short period of time and good luck.
Yeah, it's that whole body approach, and like even just in the basic concept, I think everyone understands with like yo-yo dieting, like it's not just a rush to the end. You have to realize like it's almost like that behavior or that illness or that addiction has become the symptom of something else going on, emotional or chemical or lifestyle, habitual. So I think that's great that you're addressing that as well, so that you don't have that yo-yo dieting or yo-yo health kind of issue.
Well, we talk about the cravings. One of the cravings say it's carbs. You know what it is. So the NAD helps suppress the carb craving, but also there's a lot, like you said, this is your world. A lot more goes into eating habits than just, why you craving.
Calories in, calories
why 8 o'clock at night you pull out the ice cream. There's some of your conscious aware, a lot of it's a subconscious, and again, it's the whole person approach. You tackle someone like yourself, these other things over time, and all of a sudden you can change your life over a period of time. Not overnight, but over a period of time.
Right. Now, and you mentioned like a 5 pillars with your whole body approach, correct?
Well, if you count the QEEG as one, that's 5.
It's really 5 pillars, of our program. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We kind of laugh about that as well.
So that's sort of basically what we've hit on already is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically,
Lay those out like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
the initial assessment,
Yeah.
provider assessment, yeah. Provider assessment, we'd sit there, it's like going to a consult, it's a medical consult, go over your whole history. And then with that, we sit down together, the things we think we could benefit with you and based on your unique situation, what your goals would be based on that, and what kind of program we should start with and look forward to probably having over the next few months based on what you're wanting to get out of what your challenges are. And that's what makes it individual. And then they all get a functional life skills assessment from OT. They all get the table treatments. And
And functional life skills is actually, we call it motivational therapy, which is like the counseling, and then occupational therapy. So there's really 2 different services under the functional life skills. So the occupational therapy with the stress reduction that we talked about, and then the counseling services.
Yeah. And the table treatment is just a holistic aspect of it. With somewhat OT does holistic too. And the quantitative EEG, it's the baseline pre and post to quantify the changes that you're already telling us you're feeling subjectively.
So to list them again, we got the provider evaluation or assessment. You got your IV infusion. You have your brain mapping. You have your functional life skills. And then you have that neurosensory biofeedback, which you'll hear us say the table treatments a lot.
Okay, very
Yes,
cool.
those are the 5 pillars.
That's a good like summation of
Yes,
all of that.
the 5.
Oh, okay. Well, what a perfect way to wrap that up.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I would love to ask then, if for people who are interested in this or looking for just better health and wellness in general, do you have 3 books, podcasts, or resources that you would recommend to the audience, and why?
I would recommend a couple books. As far as like the trying support the bridge between spirituality and biology, there's a gentleman by the name of Bruce Lipton. He's a PhD. He wrote a book more than a decade ago called The Biology Belief. And he, in a very methodical way, explains through science how spirituality is part of how we function. It's a beautiful book. And for people like your audience seems to like science, that's a good one to look at, I think. He's also got, if you Google him online, he's got lectures and he's very entertained to listen to him speak too. So listen to him speak. There is a book that is called Hidden Messages in Water.
We love this book.
Because what it does, this book, there's a Japanese scientist, his last name's Emoto, I'll try to say the whole thing. He took bottles of water and he basically taped words on a bottle of water because every word has a frequency. Mm-hmm. He froze the bottle of water. The frozen water he cut under an electron microscope, looked at the crystalline structure. That's all they did. Different words had different crystalline structures on them. It shows how just a word and a thought affects you physically. I mean, we're 2/3, 70% water. If it affects that water, it's going to affect the water in you. So it shows how beautiful words like love and peace and gratitude is beautiful, like beautiful snowflake structures. Words like hate, grief, anger, have these all broken chains and stuff. So if you really want a visualization explanation, I really recommend take a look. Pictures worth 1,000 words.
Yeah, it has pictures and everything. We refer our clients to look through this book when they're getting started in our program because it really explains the table treatments that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
How there's energy behind words and thoughts and things like that.
Words do affect you, simply enough.
Oh,
yeah.
And another book, you had one more.
The Magic of Thinking Big. It seems to be a very popular book. It's really
I haven't read it yet, but I've heard of it.
It's most people in this kind of personal development. They read a series of books. This often is the one that mentions number 1 on their list. And it's one we recommend to lots of people.
Nice. Okay, so I'll include those in the show notes so people can check that out. I'll also be sure to put all your contact information. But is there kind of any last things you'd really like to share or encourage the audience to look into or be aware of, or just to kind of walk away action steps?
I drive people to our website they're interested about, especially some questions about NAD or just more information about us. Steph?
I think really just knowing that healing is a process. Whatever you consider healing, it takes time, and to be patient with it, and don't give up if one thing doesn't work for you. Try a variety of things.
Yeah. One thing I really learned, there's a place for everything when it comes to healthcare. And in emergency medicine, I felt there's a lot of great good in there. There still is. When I had clients who hadn't seen a doctor for 20, 25 years, so they were in the holistic path only, and they showed up in the emergency room, you knew you were going to find a lot of things because they had waited so long, and to get there took the last breath. and it was often too late. So there's a time and place for it. And I'm not here today, allopathic medicine is horrible. It certainly has a place for a lot of things, but it's not the only thing. And that's what our program tries to bring together is everything. We're here to augment somebody's care, not take over the care.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I usually encourage people. I'm like, do the doctor, get the labs, take medicines as you need them. But if that's all the further your doctor has planned and you want a different, long game, that's when, start looking into some other things, start working in tandem with some other options. And I love that there's just so many options now for people because we're also different with what resonates with us, with what works with us and our chemistry and our situation. So it's really nice that you've got this additional method that I think is very new, cutting edge, and exciting results, it sounds like. So very cool.
Yeah. And you come from someone who 15 years ago didn't think that way.
Yeah. It was a shift for me. It took a lot for me to kind of get out of what my schooling was and realize that's only one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And then also, I believe you were saying for anyone who's kind of within driving distance, what kind of services can you provide, or what are you offering?
Oh, I mean, go ahead, Steph.
Well, I was going to say, if it's in terms of like an intro, we're doing intro pricing for the summer. So we have these special prices if you choose to go a private pay route and you want to, join our program. We do accept insurance. So if you're interested, you can see on our website, but we just need a copy of your insurance and we can figure out what your coverage is. And then again, for anybody who listens to this podcast, we want to do a free consultation with them as well.
But I want to add, we're not just local. I mean, we have, we have a telehealth, like the initial assessment with me.
You mentioned tapping and tables, and I'm like, is there a portion you can do telehealth?
Well, that would fall out. That's a whole different business we have, but
there is a portion.
The telehealth is really the initial assessment. Like you want to do a consult. You think you may want to fly in or drive in for 3 or 4 days to actually get treatment, but you're not sure yet. We often, whether you're local or not, can do the initial consultation through a telehealth appointment.
Oh, awesome.
So like a Zoom call.
But yes, the table treatments, there's a portion too where those table treatments we're talking about, those can be done remote. So if you are somebody who flies in or travels in and you want to just get the infusion, but you still want table treatments in between, you don't have to come back into the office. We can do those table treatments remotely as well.
That would take the individual really understood the big picture about energy and things like that. That's not something we promote, but it's something we know we can do. But,
well, that was really exciting. So have you had people come in from distant locations?
Yeah, we have had people drive in. We had a client that drove in. They drove. We haven't had anyone fly in yet, but they drove in about 2.5 hours. Stayed in. We have some local rates with some hotels that are literally a minute away from us, so they get special pricing as well.
That is exciting.
That helps. Yeah,
it's worth it when you're getting something that gives you the results that you've been desperately searching for.
Absolutely.
I love that. And so before we go then, how can people reach out to you if they'd like to connect or learn more or set up that free consultation?
I would visit our website, which is the www.innovativewellnessllc.com, or you can give our main office line a call, which is 614-601-6272. Really just reaching out to us to get some more information. We just would need, there's certain information we have to gather on our clients so we can discuss like the payment and all that. But yeah, give us a call. We like to just, love to discuss how we can help you and see how we can change your life.
Love it.
Oh, you can also email. We have an email as well, and that would be info@innovativewellnessllc.com.
Love it. Yeah. And I'll have all that in the show notes as well. So you guys can check that out down there, as well as some links to the books they mentioned and their website, and a lot of cool stuff to look into.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys taking time to come and share what you do. I know it sounds like one of those things where if someone asks like, what do you do? It's like, well, how do I explain this?
Right.
So I'm glad to have kind of given this opportunity because I was very curious to get to learn more about it as well.
We appreciate you having us.
Kate. Really
yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys. And thank you everyone for tuning in and listening, and we'll talk with you next time.
Thank you.
So thanks for listening in, guys. I hope you found that as interesting as I did. A lot of cool stuff to look into. Remember, you can check out their website and get that free consultation. All the links to reach them are in the show notes, as well as the books they mentioned, The Biology of Belief, The Hidden Messages in Water, The Magic of Thinking Big. And another one I'm going to throw in there that another podcast guest mentioned, as well as several clients that I did start reading that I think also ties into this, is called The Body Keeps the Score. That one gets way deep into the science of what's going on after trauma, whether that's abuse, PTSD, near-death experiences, like anything that kind of triggers bad relationships. So if that's something that's you think might be holding you back, these are all some great resources to check out. There is something going on physiologically in your body, and it can have that ripple effect through all aspects of health, from addiction to GI issues to body aches and pain to immune health. That is emotional stress that creates a hormonal and chemical stress. So check those out. Reach out to Tom and Steffany with any questions. Reach out to me if you want. And as always, like, follow, subscribe, share the content. It means so much to me when I know that this is helpful information to people. And also remember, nutritionandguthealth.com coming soon in August. Take care. Talk to you later, guys.